This lesson focuses specifically on fiction narratives. Your keywords are fiction, genre, world building, characters, and rules. Fiction, of course, is something that is made up or a real event that's turned into something made up. Fiction has several different genres, which is a type of story being told. You have fantasy, which is fairy tale like fiction, science fiction. It's usually futuristics or otherwise based on some speculative application of science, as in there is a scientific concept like cloning, etc. behind it, but used in a way that we cannot currently use within the realm of science. Historical fiction is fiction that revolves around a real historical figure or event. And mystery, which relies on suspense and an unsolved crime or occurrence. You also have romance, which is just a love story. And realistic fiction. These are made-up stories that resemble real life. There's things that might actually happen from day to day, but to your knowledge have not actually happened. World building occurs mostly in fantasy and science fiction. This is making up a completely new world. It's most effective when the world is some way or somehow familiar to the reality that we're used to. So, for example, gravity still applies, or people look like people as opposed to purple polka dotted aliens. Not that you can't break those rules, but that this is something that tends to be most effective because readers relate to things better. And it can be used to make the reader think about some aspect of our home society. For example, in the Hunger Games, you have some world building going on. They are using the American continent, but it's been completely restructured from what we're used to. The people are what we're used to, but the society and the civilization is very, very different. So that took some world building. Characters can be realistic or far-fetched. They could be that human, or they could be the purple polka dotted alien. And again, here they're most effective when they're relatable to the reader, that the feelings and the thoughts and the processes that they have and they go through are common to the standard human experience. Your rules with fiction. Just because it's made up doesn't mean it doesn't have to make sense. You need to make rules for your made-up worlds and your made-up people, and make sure that they are clearly implied in your reading, or stated outright somewhere, blend them into the reading, and that all of your characters and the events in your story follow those rules. So, if you have magic in your story, there have to be some limitations to magic. It's not just an endless amount of power. What can people do with magic? What can't they do with magic? And how does this work? Same thing with your science fiction. It's a little trickier there. Mysteries and romances and realistic fiction and historical fiction all have rules based on the setting and the context that you choose for that story. Keeping these things in mind, you will be writing a fiction narrative at some point in time, but first you're going to be examining a few fiction narratives. Think about how the characters are used, how the story is developed, what kind of setting and world do they have for you, and what rules did the author use when the author wrote.